All right, let's call the meeting of the Board of Public Works to order, April 19th, 2022. Oh, we've got two people who are still missing. We'll give them one more minute. Do we even have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
I see June and I see Paul. Yes, we have a quorum.
I'm ready for bed.
The parking
God,
is
your voice
rather
is
difficult, so that might be with.
Oh, man, when I saw the last pictures you posted,
So-
that is not possible. You forget how, when you don't have little ones at home anymore, how they just, well, and technology has changed. My
Oh,
nephew
no,
always
it
had
didn't.
tubes put in his ears. Now, that used to be a day in the hospital when I was, now it's 5 minutes outpatient.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. They can do.
My pastor is, he's 2 years younger than Lincoln, but he is, I think, 3/4 of an inch shorter and maybe a half a pound lighter than him or something like that.
Yes.
It's amazing to me that they have a new baby too, and the little one.
She hasn't been at home.
She
Probably
is
seen her.
clearly learning stuff from her brother. I mean, she's just, and the doctor said, they, they really do. They watch each other, they figure out what's what, and they pick stuff up. But she's like rolling over so quickly. She was only born in February.
All
She's
right,
over
well, I
so
think we should call the meeting to order. Hopefully, our other commissioners will arrive soon. So, the Board of Public Works, April 19th, 2022, we will call to order. Could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Moriarty is absent. Commissioner Shoneman is absent. Commissioner Lemon,
I'm here.
Commissioner Shea,
Present.
Mayor Donches.
I'm here. Next, we have public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the board?
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I know this, I think it's the first budget planning meeting. I'm not positive. So I just want to emphasize, mindfulness in spending. I think there's a lot going on when these new assessment numbers come out in July that have some hidden secrets for property owners, and I think the lowest level property owners will see the highest increase, which is always problematic. But I do appreciate the work you do with the roads and plowing. I didn't have any complaints this winter, and I know some people did, but I think it was particularly challenging with the amount of rain and ice, and I think you did pretty good, really. And I think it was expensive for you to try to stay on top of all of that. So I'm going to give you kudos for what went on with the roads. I think you did a great job. And I know my road is being dug up right now, and I don't even care if you if you repave it. It's not really, I didn't think it was so bad, but the process is underway. I'd like to talk to you about how you handle your non-public meeting minutes. And I picked up a list that was done because the law changed on January 1st, and I don't think you're really in compliance on those. And no board was. I picked up the minutes from the assessing office, DPW, and from the Board of Aldermen. None of the lists were even close to matching each other because each one is applying a different process. The best and most complete set was Public Works. Yours were the best set. But I am concerned that separate minutes are not listed for non-public meetings, and they really should be. And I cited a New Hampshire Municipal Association document from Cordell Johnston in 2016 where he advises and says non-public meeting minutes must be separate. And that was my training as an elected official. And I can just tell you from a transparency standpoint as a member of the public, it hugely helps when you put non-public meeting minutes listed under your meeting minutes so that the public knows that something was released. Otherwise, we have to go searching through every set of records that could be 83 pages long to try and find where they are. And quite frankly, I haven't been able to find the ones from February and March, so I don't know where they are. But I really believe it's not in compliance. Otherwise, your list was quite good, your listing method. It's just how they're posted. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other member of the public wish to address the Board of Public Works? We don't have Zoom, so. All right, I don't see anyone. We'll now go on to the budget workshop. And, oh, please, I wanted to mention that Commissioner Schoeneman arrived at 2:03 or so, so she is present. I'm turning it over to Director Photo.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So this is our budget workshop, and we have begun to prepare our budget. We were given a directive of a 4.5% increase, which sounds pretty good, but given that we kept 2 positions unfunded last year, wasn't great. We are proposing funding one of the positions that we left unfunded last year. We still have about $75,000 or $76,000 to cut to meet that 4.5% increase directive. And what we'll do is go department by department, and the superintendents will present the changes in their budget, and then open it up to questions and go through that way. We would like to go into a non-public after, just to discuss some changes in personnel and salary changes. So we'd like to do that after. So with that, I think, Mayor, with your permission, we will start with administration and engineering and turn it over to Engineer Hudson.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Director Photo and Mr. Mayor. So I'm just going to cover the engineering aspects here. Under your revenue, page 13, I believe. No real changes there. And then skipping to expenses on page 17. I'll just go through what items have increased for your information. So there's some wage changes, which the director will talk about more in non-public. Under 51,400 temporary wages, we've added an intern position for a summer engineering intern. We found that to be very, very useful in the past, and we have a lot to do. Under 53,107, that's a fund to fund various architect and engineering support services. That's where we would go contract some outside support when we need it for engineering. We've had an issue with one of the bridges in Mine Falls Park that we're addressing, and we're able to quickly contract through that funding, which is great to have a source like that we can do unanticipated work when we need to, or basically undefined work ahead of time. Utility changes are just based upon historical usage and purchasing guidelines. And I think, let's see, I missed a page here. Small increase in postage and delivery just due to postal rates changing. And then fuel, compressed natural gas, that's just actually a reduction based upon historical usage. So be happy to address any questions about any of that.
Any commissioners have questions? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you very much. For the architect piece, there's an increase. Do you have anything coming up that you anticipate that is why there's an increase there? Because it looks like we've done $0 in expense this year.
Well, as of today, we've actually fully expended that line. I know it's not reflected on the case, but we just last week, actually the week before last, just before I left on vacation, we were made aware of an issue that a resident raised about one of the pedestrian bridges at Mine Falls, the bridge right next to the high school.
Yes.
And we had to, we had just inspected it last year, but we went out and looked at it and confirmed there was an issue, brought down a bridge engineer and had him look at it, and basically that work would be funded under that line because it was done in an emergent fashion. But that type of thing is, it's unforeseen. If we don't need it, we won't use it, but it's great to have some funding like that we can quickly respond to issues with as they come up.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll move to the street department. Superintendent Ibarra.
I wanted to make sure the record reflects that Commissioner Moriarty has arrived at around 3:11.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Mayor, good afternoon. So I'll also highlight first the revenue, which is really under any auctioning of vehicles or the snow tows shown in there. But that stays pretty much the same every year. Changes that I highlight would be wages, 51400. We're adding the temporary position. We had it a few years back, eliminated it to meet the requirement last year, and we're adding it back in this year. In hopes of having a temporary seasonal person to do inventory work with Fleet Department. Line 54114, we increased that line by $5,900 this year based on the purchasing guidelines and the history of our usage.
Excuse me, Superintendent, you might want to mention the mason?
Pardon?
The mason that you're adding back?
Excuse me, sir. Could you put the microphone in front of you where you're speaking, please?
Sure. So yes, we will be adding the Mason position back into our budget this year. Line 54141, we raised $10,300, that's water. With our brine making operations, our water usage has increased, and with the purchasing guidelines, in addition to the brine making, we needed to raise that line. Janitorial services, 54200, we raised $8,402. That's additional cleaning and COVID-19 prevention, keeping the place sterile as possible. Line 54207, we actually reduced by $25,000 our snow plowing services in an area to try and save some money to come in at the 4.5%. Line 54280, building and ground maintenance, we were able to reduce that also by $5,000. AVL monitoring services, 54492. There's another reduction of $4,968. That's the reduction in the AVL cost to the city. So we adjusted that. Line 54600, vehicle repairs and maintenance. We increased that by $31,000 in anticipation of the raising of the vehicle parts. Fuel and leaded, 61300. That's been raised, $7,932. Anticipated increase in the cost. Fuel, diesel, 61307. That was raised by $18,001, also through the purchasing guidelines and in anticipation of a rise in the cost. Salt, 61807. We raised that by $80,000. As you may be aware, we went up to $72 a ton. This last year, we had to do a change order and added $75,000 to the budgeted salt allocation from last year in order to get through this season. As you alluded, it was icy, and we did burn a lot more material, and we're not anticipating them lowering their price. So we brought it back in to about where that change order took us. Signs, 61542, that is up by $3,000. That's just cost of materials. Construction materials, 61560, that is up by $4,000. And that covers mailbox repairs, and miscellaneous construction-related expenses. 61706, tires, anticipating an increase there. We raised that to $7,520 additional monies. 61799, vehicle parts and supplies, we raised by $3,805. Again, parts are going up. And computer software, 71228, we raised only $3,000. That's to go through the hardware or software that we use in the tactics program and traffic. And that is my last highlight for my operating budget at Street Department. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you think that that's going to be enough of an increase for fuel costs? It looks like maybe it's about 10% over the previous year. Do you think that's going to cover us?
Honest answer, I don't know.
Yeah.
Very volatile
Yeah.
in the market. We're going through the purchasing guidelines and what purchasing anticipates.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Superintendent, what prompted that decrease in the ABL monitoring service? How did you analyze that to decrease that?
I myself didn't analyze it, but their cost came in at a reduced rate.
Oh, the contract came down?
Yeah.
Someone's mic is up. We're not close enough to them.
You may not be closing it.
Or they're yelling for Mike.
Like, I'm trying to think, which mic is he talking about? I know a lot of mics.
Don't worry, I get in trouble all the time for that.
And the only other question I had, when you're running these numbers off, some of the numbers you run off do not match my numbers. So as far as the code number for each, so did you just write those down, or are you reading?
I
from-
have my little cheat sheet.
Okay.
I do have my budget to refer to. I didn't
Just, I
compare
don't
the
know,
two.
I
I'm
didn't know
sorry.
if the numbers changed somehow, and
Well, I can give you the information to your question by referring to my
like you
budget.
just said, the salt one, you ran off, that was a different number, then you said the tire one was a different, not the budget, the code number.
Right, right.
So
I-
what do you have for salt?
Salt should be 61514.
What do you
That's what
have?
you have, right?
Yeah, he read off the asphalt number by
Yeah.
accident.
Oh, okay, okay, I'm just
He
trying to
did.
follow along.
My bad. Any other questions?
Commissioner Shoneman.
The item 54207, that's not citywide snow plowing, that's just facility snow plowing, correct?
That's contracted services. So if I brought in a contractor to assist us plowing,
Okay.
we had a much better season with the new contract. We were able to manage the storms differently. So we're reducing our need there.
Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner Shea.
For tires, is that based on purchasing guidance alone, or do we have a backlog of replacement need there? That's pretty huge.
So we speak to our suppliers, our vendors, and see what they anticipate the cost rising,
Mm.
and we factor that into our purchasing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I'm all set.
Okay.
If there's
Any
no
other
other questions?
Any other questions
Course
from any of
We
our
certainly can come
commissioners?
back to, if you have any later.
Yeah, certainly we can come back at the end or whatever, but anything now? Nope. All right. Park Rec?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Let's see, line item 1, wages, temporary seasonal. It's count number 51400. We're going to be increasing that by $12,647. Just for the increased rate we're paying our seasonal staff. We were having a hard time getting in seasonal staff at $15 an hour, so we bumped it up to $17 an hour. That's where that's from.
And I just want to add something about seasonal staff, because it's important, I think, for the commissioners to know. It's been a very challenging year getting seasonal staff. And that's been happening for the past couple of years, but this year, for instance, solid waste, we weren't able to get enough temporary trash collectors. So that's been a problem. Lifeguards, huge challenge this year. I think we have, Lauren Byers can comment on this. I think we've got 5 or 6 remaining spots open We're hopeful, but still concerned. This has been a really challenging year for getting seasonal helps, even at $17 an hour.
If I may.
Sure.
Would that mean that the pools can't open if you don't have a lifeguard? How does that work?
That would mean that, but we're hopeful. We're hopeful. We're pushing really hard, and we have a lot of great staff, and I think we're offering to train lifeguards, so we have some very talented people that have worked with us a number of years and are certified to train lifeguards. So I think, Lauren, we're optimistic that we'll fill the spots, but we've been pushing really hard. As you probably saw our message boards advertising for lifeguards.
Yeah.
So.
It's account number 54100. We're going to increase that $13,455. It's estimated increase due to historical usage and purchasing guidelines. Line number 3, water, 54141. We're going to increase that $7,720. Water is estimated to increase, and just due to, we're basing this off of that, the historical usage and purchasing guidelines. Line item number 4, equipment rentals. That's going up $9,000. This is attributed to additional portable toilets throughout the city. Line item number 5, mileage reimbursement. We're increasing $500. This mileage reimbursement is used for the pool coordinators to travel in between the different pools, the 3 different pools we have in the city. Number 6, chemicals. This is for pool chemicals. This is going to be increased $2,500.
When you point out the line, could you give the code number so everybody can find it, like line number 6?
Yes, Mayor. Line number 6, account number 61156 will be increased $2,500.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Line item number 7, miscellaneous supplies, account number 61299 is being increased $2,500. Just increased cost of supplies. Line item number 8, fuel unleaded, account number 61300 is going to be increased $1,635. Just based off of historical usage and purchasing guidelines. Line item number 9, account number 61307 is going to be increased $4,072. Just based off of historical usage and purchasing guidelines. Vehicle parts and supplies, line item number 10, account number 61799 is going to be increased $25,000. It's just based off the increased cost of parts. Are there any questions?
Questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Shea.
Do you know when the last time we went out to bid on portable toilets was? I think we use United Site Services, is that right?
I believe it was about 3 years ago, so it'll be coming up probably next year.
So we maybe have a 4-year contract with them, or?
We're entering the 3rd year.
Okay. Thank you. I know there's been a lot of kind of increases in the cost of those. Now, is that reflected on what we're paying now, or?
They would have been locked in for a price for the coming year, but we added 5 units.
Oh, okay.
We added 5 units.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shoneman.
Vehicle parts and supplies have gone up. That's a very big expenditure. How many new vehicles did we get for Parks and Rec last year?
There were 4 trucks purchased. We haven't received any of them yet because they're on back order.
All the vehicles. So you've been pouring new parts into old vehicles, and that's this increase, double the budget from last year.
It's part of the reason. This was also a recommendation made from fleet maintenance as well. So that contributed to this number going up as well. It's a number we
So-
usually go over in our budget.
I can help with that a little bit.
Okay.
So even though we have new rigs or trucks, we still have wear and tear components of those trucks. So brake cans, brake linings, steering components. Now with the emission standards, we have a thing called DEF. It's a very expensive maintenance item on the vehicles. So parts prices have increased, and that's if you can even get them. With the supply chain issues, that's impacting us. We're waiting extended periods of time to replace some of these parts, and the prices, like everything we're seeing, even grocery store fuel prices, it's all going up.
Okay. So when we next go through and buy the next year's vehicles on the, the SURF program, we need to probably take into consideration the lead time. Looks like it's a lot more than it was.
Even to get a new truck in, you're ordering a year out.
Oh, dear. Okay. You're gonna say,
If I could add to that, Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. We're also repairing these old trucks to put them on our back line, so we have more vehicles out for snow plowing during the season. So it's not like we're just throwing money away at these trucks. We wait until we get to a point where it's not worth it to repair a truck. But we'll keep repairing a truck if we can still use it and we think it's viable to do so. So that's why you see some of these parts going up. Even in my budget, when it comes up, you'll see some of that we're trying to limp some of these trucks along. If I only need a truck to run 3 months out of the year, it's not worth it to buy a $400,000 truck when I could dump $10,000 into it and still have a truck for those 4 months. Trying to save the city money on that end.
yeah, 6 of one, half
It
dozen
costs,
of the
right, it
other.
costs a little bit of money, but, we still have that truck for the 3 months that we need it or the 4 months that we need it, as opposed to buying a brand-new truck and letting it sit for 8 months out of the year.
Right, fair enough.
Anything else? All right.
To solid waste. Superintendent Olson.
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent of Solid Waste. Thank you, guys. Revenues, they pretty much stayed the same except for my inter-fund transfer, which is my capital improvements that we're proposing. That's a big one because of, well, I'll get to the capital improvements when I get into my budget at the end. First line that I'm going to go through is the 53107. That's my architects and engineering. Well, of course, the wages and overtime, that's all part of recommended from the city. My big one is the architects and engineering 53107. You're going to see a pretty decent increase in that. That's my New Hampshire DES requirements and added engineering services. Last year and the year before, I've had to increase my general engineering quite substantially, so this year I'm trying to budget appropriately for all these anomalies that happen with DES.
Excuse me for a minute, could you tell us where you are? Because I am new, I'm just trying to follow this. What page are you on?
Oh, page 30, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yep, I jumped right over revenues, my fault. The next few are going to be on this page, so I'll let you know when I skip to the next page also. So, like I said, the wages, full-time, that's all through the city, our contracts that we have to go through. 53107, architects and engineering, that's the big jump that I just spoke about. We have a lot of engineering that goes on at the city. It needs to happen quite speedily, especially for DES to get our results to them and any auditing that we have to do. 53114 on page 30, that's my auditing, my share of the contract for the auditing services. Electricity, heating, gas, those are all per city guidelines from purchasing. Page 31. We're going to go through my equipment repairs, 54487. And that was a little bit about what we talked about, you know, increase in parts and putting money towards vehicles and everything. That one's quite a bit more because I'm going to get teeth for my new compactor. It's going to help me get ready for next year. My teeth on the compactors that crush the trash are starting to wear through. I'm trying to look ahead so we don't get hit all in one big chunk. 54600 is vehicle repairs, and that's the costs of parts from our fleet manager, same thing. All the parts are going up. Page 31 still, 55400, conferences and seminars. We're doing a lot more online training for my operators and my collection equipment operators for solid waste operator certificate. Most of the people that work in my landfill have to have these certificates, so I'm just increasing that a little bit to help us get these certificates up to date and continue on. 55699, other contracted services. There's a pretty big jump there. You'll see. That's a increase, I'm sorry. That's for my grinder rental to grind up C&D. I'm going to try doing that this year to help conserve airspace. As you know, C&D takes 20% more airspace. We're going to try grinding it. I'm also going to look at contracting, shipping some of it out. I haven't got any prices back on that yet, so I'm just going to try to see where we stand so we don't have to put it into the landfill if I possibly can. Next page, 32. All my fuel, it's all the same as all the other departments. It's just a cost increase that our guidelines are showing us. Construction materials, 61560. That's going to be for my repairs of my outbuildings. A lot of my buildings up at the landfill are starting to fall apart. They're starting to decay because of weather and everything, so I need to do some repairs to those, so I'm going to get some materials in for that. 61705 tires, same as the other departments. Tire costs are going up, so I'm going to increase that a little bit so we can keep tires on my trash trucks. 71228 computer software, that's a small increase. That's the scale software that I have to have some maintenance done to. That's the software that makes all the money for the city there at the landfill. I want to make sure that's up and running properly. Capital on page 33, 81100. Capital improvements, that's the big one, the $7,050,000. That's my $5 million for the Phase 3 construction that we're anticipating starting, so we gain the airspace. Remember, we did Phase 1 of the Phase 3 landfill that was about $4 million, $5 million project. We've always said it's going to be about a $10 million project. This is the project to complete it and gain me some more airspace. We're going through DES right now. I'm anticipating an approval from them, and as soon as I can get the approval, I'll start building this second phase to the landfill. This also includes $1.8 million for a setback wall. When we first started in Phase 1 and 2, there's a wall that divides the trash from 500-foot setback to the buildings. I've had to build a wall there. I have to continue building that. So that should complete the project. So as we go up with trash, I have to build the wall, backfill it with dirt, so I continue to gain airspace. These are all projects to help us gain airspace for the future here in the city. There's also a $250 GPS system that I'll hook up to my dozer and to my compactor. That'll help us gain airspace. It tells me when the trash is completely compacted, and it'll also show me where my side slopes are supposed to be so we don't overfill when it comes time to capping the landfill. So it'll get us to the right height and we're not losing airspace anywhere. My last line that I have here is 89701. It's the transfer to closure. This is an NHDES requirement. I have to put away so much money every year towards closure, so when the landfill is done being filled, we can actually have money aside to cap it, close it, and get it prepared for final use. That's the last of my increases. If you have any questions. Yes, sir.
I'm curious about you talked about the grinder and the other contracted services, so I'm curious about that. So we currently use the grinder? and we're gonna increase the usage, or we haven't used it yet?
Nope, we actually, we've never ground any of the materials there at the landfill other than the brush. I post it out, I bid it out, try to have brush ground every year. This will be the first year that we actually use a grinder. I demoed one about a month ago for a day, and it ground up the demo, so it's nice fine chips. It really compacts tight. It'll eat up the couch, it eats up furniture, it'll shred it right down to small chips. I'm just looking at ways to conserve airspace for the city, and this is an opportunity to possibly work towards that instead of having to ship it out and pay money to ship it out. If I can compact it and use it to fill small areas of the landfill, as I just spoke about with my GPS system, I'm gonna have small areas that I have to fill 6 inches, 8 inches throughout the landfill. If I can grind this material up, make it small enough, I can pack in pack in these small areas and these tight areas with these chips while we're making revenue on the C&D.
Yeah, so you kind of rent the machine, but our staff
Our staff will
feeds-
be
operating it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just curious.
The machine itself is $1 million machine. I'm not ready to
Right.
offer up us buying one. When the C&D is done being ground, if we have the time left over it comes in a month rental typically.
Yeah.
If I have time at the end of grinding up all the demo, I'll move right over to the brush and save myself $40,000 a year. Instead of paying someone to grind the brush, I'll grind the brush. The machine did everything. It ground up all types of material.
I mean, I was also thinking of all the glass we recycle that we have to pay to get rid of now. So I was just thinking ahead here. I mean, how could we use that?
The difficult thing with the glass is it's all intermingled. We don't separate out the glass. It's all single stream. So it's not like we could grind up just the glass. That would be a difficult situation. But I'm looking at any opportunity to use it to save us airspace, to grind up materials, to make it easier to process and move.
Right, I think it's great.
Commissioner Schoeneman.
Back to revenue. Sorry.
No, which page?
This is page 28.
Okay.
We just increased by quite a lot the commercial disposal fee, so that there'd be nothing tricky going on. Why aren't we seeing an increase in revenue for that? It should at least double, right?
Theoretically, I'm seeing a lot of demo not coming to our landfill, which we were asking for because of this increase. I don't have the numbers on me at hand right now, but I can tell you right now that a lot of the trucks that used to come in aren't coming in anymore. So I can't give a definite amount on revenue that's gonna come in because of it.
I see.
I could shoot off the hip and guess, and then I could look like a fool next year. And we didn't want to take that chance of, being made of a fool. Anything that does come in for revenue will reflect next year, and it would show off, differently in my budget for next season.
I see, okay.
I assume that you would rather have no trucks show up than a slight increase in others.
Absolutely.
For the cost of
For us, right, correct. We want the airspace. Me personally, I'd rather see the airspace for the city of Nashua than the revenue, but of course, revenue is a big part of the city.
Commissioner Shea.
For other contracted services, year-to-date, we're way short of budgeted.
Could you give us the reference?
Oh, sure. Page 31, section 55, account 55699.
Yes, sir.
So it's $1,236,000 and change budgeted, and we're at $377,000 and change expended. What's your projection for that line for year end?
That's another one of those numbers that I could shoot off the hip and guess.
Yep.
What I do is I take my recycling contracts out right now. We take the ceiling height that it potentially could be at, plus the trucking, and I budget what the worst-case scenario is, because going over budget is a political nightmare trying to get monies funded for
Yep.
it. So we budget worst case, so that's worst case scenario for my recycling, that's worst case scenario for my tires, that's worst case scenario for let's say oils, whatever gets disposed of or shipped out of the landfill, that's worst-case scenario, so we have the money appropriated. Most contracts won't be signed if we don't have the monies appropriated. So that, you know, companies won't even look at us if we don't have these monies appropriated and ready to go for them. If worst-case scenario, we have to pay that much out.
Okay, and follow-up. So for Public Works budget, I know that for the city general budget, there's like an escrow process. If you have an available amount that's left over at the end of the year, you can put it forward to some other use, or alternately use it, what is it, I think the turn of phrase is like for like, where you can kind of expend it within the year on something that would, you know, fall within that category. Is there an individual Public Works escrow process? Just curious how that works.
Unfortunately, well, unfortunately for me, fortunately for you guys, the solid waste department and the wastewater department were enterprise funds. So all our revenues or any monies that are left over go back to the general fund.
Okay.
I can't escrow money, he can't escrow money, but my brothers over here and there can escrow money out of their budgets.
Okay.
So that's why it's not really, I can budget worst-case scenarios, but all my money goes back into the general fund. It's not like I can over-budget something and say, I want to buy 4 trucks next year and use that money.
That's good to know. Yeah, I'm looking at this number and thinking to myself, well, the difference is nearly as much as the machine itself would cost.
Right.
Okay, I appreciate the clarity on that. Thank you.
Commissioner Shoneman.
So what is the total increase in your budget this year? Percent increase?
I think I saw it in the beginning, it said 12%.
So it's only 12%, not 66%?
I'm 12.8, well, that's the general increase fund, right? Carolyn, could you help me?
The increase in expenses is the 66%, but the transfer, the general fund transfer is up 12.8%.
Okay,
There's a
explain,
general
please.
fund transfer that goes in to equalize the expenses to the revenues.
Okay, so they get money from the general fund to offset all this money that they have to spend for capital improvements,
For all their expenses.
for all their expenses? Okay, so revenue plus whatever the general fund is their budget,
Correct.
correct? Okay, so it's still a 66% increase in, I'm sorry,
Well,
math is not my strong
The
point.
hard part
Please
for
help
this
me
one
out.
is because the expenses have gone up because of the capital costs.
Right.
But those will all be bond monies, so they're already captured in the revenues. The bond proceeds come in, and so the difference, what you need after all the different types of revenue he has, including bond proceeds, is your general fund transfer. So the general fund transfer, which is pretty much what the tax impact is 12.8%.
Okay. It's high.
It's expensive to run a landfill. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. It's a hard pill
Yeah.
to swallow, but we kind of have to have it.
Well, it's not 12.8% on the tax rate, I might have confused you. It's 12.8% on the increase from last year's general fund.
Yes.
What's the total increase in the budget?
The total increase in his budget is about 6.8 million. And the general fund transfer increase is 666,000.
Okay, I see that.
And so something like 85% of that is that capital improvement piece,
Pretty much, because his capital was about 7 million and his
Yeah.
increase is 6.8 million.
okay.
Anyone else? All right. Go on to wastewater.
Superintendent Boucher.
Thank you. Dave Boucher, wastewater superintendent. Page 35, the revenue page, there's a decrease. There's 2 items on here mainly attributed to that, the 43530, state aid reimbursements, and the 48300, general obligation bond proceeds. This is reflective of the CIC projects we requested for FY '23. And on to the appropriation detail.
Give the page number,
Yeah,
please.
36.
I believe 37.
37, sorry. Thank you. 51100, wages full-time, that's contractual obligation increases. I do have a decrease in line 51400, wages temporary seasonal employees. We reduced the seasonal employee by a person, so we'll have 2 seasonal next year. And I have a small increase in the longevity also. It's calculated through wages, salaries. On the 52-100, well, the fringe benefit lines are increases there. That's all obligations. And down to the 53 line, 53-114, counting and auditing services, there's an increase there, contractual, along with the billing and mailing services increase, line 53467. And down to the property services line, 54141, increases in water. We do have an anticipated increase in the water rates, also increase in water usage due to some of the processes we have. Increase in janitorial services, that'd be an increase in the services we use at the facility. And the disposal services is a major increase, the 54221. This is the disposal services for our biosolids. It's a company that's hired to manage our biosolids and spread it for beneficial reuse. We just entered into a 3-year contract. We're going to be entering into a 3-year contract with the same company that we're using. So this increase, unfortunately, there's an increase in disposal, major increase, almost twice the cost. So we have to increase that line. And we go on to page 38. Under 54487, equipment repairs and maintenance, like the other departments, we do see a increase in parts for everything. This particular increase at the facility, we have a wet weather facility. We do have one more pump to rebuild. They're expensive, so it's about a $70,000 increase in that line. Increase in the 54492 AVL monitoring, that's the tracking of our vehicles. 54600 vehicle repairs and maintenance. Also, like the other departments, we are seeing an increased cost in repairing our vehicles. We do have 3 vehicles, particularly our vac trucks and our clamshell truck, that the nature of what they do is really harsh on the truck, so they tend to need more service than the other vehicles. On down to the other services, small increase in telephone charges. 55421, the employee training and certifications. All of our employees have certifications. A lot of them are up for renewal, so they have to attend classes to gain the credit hours to maintain their licenses. Increase in postage and delivery. Filing and recording fees are increased there. We also have the 55699, other contracted services. That's a big increase. We have pump stations with new generators. As part of phase 1, we're getting more generators, part of phase 2, along with the new energy recovery generators that we have on site at the wastewater plant. We have outside contractors. We just entered into a 3-year contract for the energy recovery generators, so this is increased to reflect those. Also, our HVAC company, we want to bring one in to do the preventive maintenance on those winter and summer. Under supplies and materials, we have increases in office supplies, That's historical. Same with clothing and uniforms. We're seeing an increase in that as well with the uniform company. And on to page 39. Laboratory supplies, 61149. Increase that line. There's some new lab equipment we have to purchase, such as an industrial dishwasher. Big increase in this one is the 61156 chemicals, major increase in that one. We did get quotes on the new polymer. Unfortunately, we have to go with a specific polymer for our process that's designed. We test all these different polymers, but there's not many companies that hold this one polymer. It's very specific. So we saw a major increase in that. It went from 540,000 to 665,000 for this coming year. Plus, we're expecting increases in the sodium hypochlorite and the bisulfite we buy for the facility as well. We have the fuel increase and, fuel compressed gas increase also, a slight increase in that. Moving down to 71000, the equipment line. Got an increase in that. That's more historical. We got a lot of stuff encumbered, so it doesn't show up here, but the problem is we have a lot of equipment on order, hasn't arrived yet, so it doesn't reflect in the actual. But we are seeing an increase in price of all of our equipment that we order. Small tool line increase, that's the 71025. We do need specialty tools for maintaining some of our new equipment at the facility. And then there's an increase in debt services as well. And on to page 40, same with that one. And under the capital outlay, the 81,700, we see the decrease that reflects the capital request for FY23. And that about wraps it up. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone? Commissioner Shea.
I don't have any questions about this budget specifically. More so, I'm just interested to kind of confirm the status of our wastewater rate versus expense, and are we currently fully covering the cost of our wastewater operations with the wastewater disposal rate as it is?
Yes,
Yeah.
Want me to answer
Sure.
that? Yeah, yes, we are. So we'll have an update sometime in July to go over any potential increases that we may see in the future. But we're working a lot behind the scenes with our consultant, Hazen and Sawyer, and they're putting all of the information, all of the capital outlays, all the projects that we have coming and forecasting them, and we're putting them in a rate model that will determine what the future will be for our rates. But right now, yes, we are, and we'll have an update for you sometime in July.
We'll have to kind of revisit as we get a feel for what the cost of sewer infrastructure is going to look like moving forward? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are a number of things too. We still have permits that we're waiting for that we're not sure of the impact. We also have our EPA consent order that we'll have to do some additional work with. We're just not sure what that is yet and what that might cost. So there are some things, there's still, hopefully we'll have more answers as we get closer to July.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Lemon.
I have a question, just because I'm curious. On page 38, 55618, bank lockbox services?
That's at the bank. Well, it's what we pay for.
That's
at the
financial
bank, yeah, so-
services.
Oh.
Yeah, that comes through the bank.
Oh, okay, so like when people pay their
Yeah.
sewer fees, I was thinking something else, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions on Public Works in general?
Commissioner Shea.
I'm interested to know. I'm interested to know a little bit more about the grinder. Is that like a closed system? Is there any sort of concern or information that we know about particulate matter produced by the system? Just very curious about this.
Jeff LaFleur, Superintendent Solid Waste. The grinder is, how do I want to say it? It's a big opened machine with a conveyor belt. You drop the materials in it, and it's got these teeth that just, it's a rolling grinder. So the chips that are coming out are, could be any size. We can specify the grinding tub to make it as small as we want or as big as we want. The machine that I'm looking at right now would do anything, it would make it about 5 inches or 4 inches and smaller. Particulates, when they were running it, the operations manager of the division, Matt LeBlanc, was there watching it, and it was shooting out material, and there wasn't hardly any dust. It was just grinding it up to a good, usable material.
Appreciate it, thank you.
I have a question that is not on the budget, because I walk my dog all the time in Grilly Park. What are the red lines on the meadow? Well, the fields, not the meadow.
Brian Conant, Superintendent of Parks. Those lines are for soccer, lacrosse.
Oh, okay.
So that's what those are for. Those are athletic, just field markings.
Well, that's why I wouldn't recognize them.
That's okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Schoeneman.
So maybe you went over this at the beginning of the meeting, and I was unfortunately a little late. Pardon me for that. The goal was 4.5% increase. And the only one who came in was wastewater, who actually had a decrease. Is that what these numbers mean?
Yes, so we do have some suggestions, Commissioner Schoeneman, and we will need to go into non-public next to talk about some of those.
Okay.
And if we're ready, we can do that.
Does anybody have any other questions on the budget? Comments, anything? All right, well, Commissioner Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. I move by roll call that the board go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A3, Roman numeral 2A, to consider the dismissal or promotion or compensation or investigation of a complaint as to a city employee.
And that will be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Schoeneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Mayor Donches?
Yes. So we will now go into non-public session, and anyone not directly involved in this discussion should please retire.
I move by.
We're back in public session. Commissioner Moriarty.
Yeah, thank you. I move by roll call to seal the minutes of the Board of Public Works non-public meeting of April 19th, 2022, until such time as the majority of the board votes that the purpose of the confidentiality would no longer be served.
That needs roll call?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Moriarty?
Yes.
Commissioner Schoeneman?
Yes.
Commissioner Lemon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Mayor Donches?
Yes, motion passes. Commissioner Moriarty.
I move that we adjourn the meeting, Mayor.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting of the Board of Public Works is adjourned at 4:41 PM.